Atlanta has seen scandals before, but what unfolded inside the quiet walls of Kendra Robinson's office wasn't just another reality TV spat. This wasn't a screaming match caught on camera or an Instagram live meltdown. This was a lawyer, a wife, and a woman who had reached her breaking point. Kendra, with her sharp suits, books stacked high behind her, and a reputation for discipline, sat at her desk late into the night drafting a document that could alter her life forever. They weren't contracts for clients. They weren't investment agreements. They were real divorce papers, written in her own words, signed with her own hand, and sitting on her desk like a silent threat. For years, she had been accused of tolerating too much from young Jock, a man whose past was littered with baby mamas, viral clips, and messy headlines. She built her brand as the opposite of chaos, yet her marriage dragged her into the very chaos she claimed to rise above. Every argument, every rumor, every petty social media jab left her more resentful. And so she drafted the papers, not to file them, not yet, but to remind herself and to remind Jock that she had the power to end this marriage whenever she chose. The irony of it all? Kendra had once promised she would never let her marriage become reality TV fodder. She would never air her business online, never reduce her vows to a storyline. Yet here she was, with legal documents that looked more like a season finale prop than a genuine tool of love. Her intention, she told herself, was strategic. She didn't want a divorce, not really. She wanted control. She wanted Jock to shut his mouth on Instagram, to stop posting cryptic captions and petty rants every time they argued. She wanted him to fear the possibility that she could walk away. But what she didn't realize was that in the world of love and hip-hop, secrets never stay buried. The papers weren't just sitting on her desk. They were circulating. Inside her circle, her assistant, her paralegal, her so-called friends, someone had seen them. Someone had taken a photo. Someone decided that the story was too juicy to keep hidden. And just like that, the papers leaked. Not through a blogger like Tasha K, not through VH1 production, but through the shadows of her own network. The image surfaced quietly at first in group chats and whispers, and then exploded onto the blogs with the headline, "Kendra Robinson prepares divorce papers against young Jock." The internet didn't wait for confirmation. It didn't ask for context. Screenshots flew across Twitter, Instagram pages uploaded red-circled photos of signatures. Fans dissected every line of legal jargon as though they were trained attorneys. The fallout was instant. For years, the narrative had painted Jock as the immature one, the cheater, the clown who couldn't keep his mouth shut. But now the tables flipped. Now Kendra looked like the manipulator. To some, she was applauded. She was seen as a boss, a woman who wasn't scared to check her man with the very same tools she used in court. To others, she looked toxic, someone weaponizing the law for control instead of love. The hashtag Fodge Kendra's papers trended within hours, with fans torn between admiration and disgust. Meanwhile, Jock had no idea. He was at the studio, laughing with his crew, when his phone started buzzing nonstop. Texts, DMs, screenshots. The first time he opened one, his jaw tightened. The second time, his chest sank. By the third, his laughter was gone, replaced with silence. The man who lived for social media suddenly had nothing to say. In the leaked photo, his own name was printed, in black ink under the word respondent. It didn't matter that it hadn't been filed. It didn't matter that it was technically a draft. To the world, this was real. To the world, Kendra had already made her decision. When Jock finally confronted her, it wasn't in front of cameras. It was in their home with the air thick enough to choke on. His voice was low but sharp. "You really wrote these? You really sat down and wrote these like I was some client you tired of defending?" Kendra didn't flinch. She admitted it. She admitted she had drafted the papers, but she swore they weren't meant to be filed. She said it was about leverage, about sending a message. But to Jock, the damage was already done. He didn't see leverage. He saw betrayal. He saw the woman who claimed to ride for him preparing an escape plan behind his back. The argument spiraled fast. Jock called her cold, manipulative, two-faced. Kendra fired back that he was reckless, immature, and careless with their marriage. Every word they shouted was laced with years of resentment. And then came the line that shook the house. Jock leaned in and spat, "You didn't draft those papers for love. You drafted them to control me." The words hung in the air, poisonous, and undeniable. Even Kendra couldn't find a rebuttal, because deep down, she knew he was right. By the next morning, the blogs were already spinning. Was this a storyline for the cameras? Was this real? Castmates whispered behind closed doors. Baby mamas texted each other with "told you so" smirks. Bloggers dissected every detail, with some even claiming to have sources confirming that Kendra had been planning this for months. Her brand as a lawyer, the one who was supposed to represent discipline and intelligence, was suddenly under fire. Memes mocked her as the lawyer wife who can't even defend her own marriage. But the most dangerous part wasn't the blogs, it was the silence. Jock, who usually ran to Instagram to air out his pain, said nothing. He didn't post. He didn't rant. He didn't go live. His silence became the loudest response of all. Fans waited, hungry, knowing that when Jock finally spoke, it would be explosive. And Kendra knew it too. She sat in her office, staring at her phone, knowing that the bluff she once thought would scare him into submission had now backfired in the worst way. The leak had flipped the script. The power she thought she had over him now belonged to the public. She couldn't take it back. The papers were out. The narrative was out of her hands. The question wasn't whether she loved Jock. The question was whether she ever trusted him, enough not to use the law against him. And as the world debated, as hashtags trended, as their marriage cracked under the weight of exposure, the final thought that haunted fans everywhere was simple. Was it a bluff, or was it the final move? The silence couldn't last forever. For a man like young Jock, who had built his entire persona on charisma, jokes, and a little bit of chaos, staying quiet was more painful than any headline. The streets of Atlanta buzzed with whispers. Where's Jock? Why he so quiet? Why he ain't clapping back? Every hour that passed only made the leak feel more real. Fans scrolled through his Instagram like detectives, waiting for a cryptic post or a sarcastic caption. Instead, there was nothing. Just old photos, recycled promotions, and a silence that screamed louder than words. Behind the scenes, however, Jock was boiling. His phone sat heavy in his hand as he read the comments tearing into him. Some fans laughed, calling him the clown who got served by his own wife. Others defended him, saying the leak proved Kendra had never trusted him, that she was the real villain in their marriage. The divide was immediate. Hashtags erupted. Team Jock versus Team Kendra. On one side, people praised her as a boss who wasn't afraid to check her man legally. On the other, people accused her of being manipulative, toxic, and cold. The internet wasn't just watching a marriage crumble, it was choosing sides in a war. Finally, after days of silence, Jock broke. He didn't type a post, he didn't leave a caption, he went live, and Atlanta stopped to watch. In his living room, pacing, with his phone shaking in his hand, Jock spoke from the gut. "You didn't draft them papers for love, you drafted them to control me. Y'all think I'm crazy, y'all think I'm immature, but look who y'all praising now. A lawyer, a wife, my wife, sitting in her office drawing up fake divorces just to scare me into silence." His voice cracked. Not with tears, but with the kind of frustration that had been simmering for years. "If you can play with my name on paper, if you can put respondent under my name like I'm just another case file, then tell me how I'm supposed to believe you ever believed. In me. In me." The live cut deep. It wasn't just about Kendra anymore. It was about the dynamic of their entire marriage. Fans flooded the comments, some calling him dramatic, others calling him brave for finally standing up. Bloggers clipped the video within minutes. Memes spread with Jock's face and the caption, "Not respondent, just resentment." Even castmates who usually stayed out of their business began to whisper. Scrappy reposted a meme with laughing emojis. Erica Dixon liked a shady, "Come on." The cracks weren't just in the marriage, they were in the circle surrounding them. Kendra, furious, decided she couldn't stay silent. She posted a carefully worded response, more like a legal statement than an emotional plea. Marriage is complicated. Arguments are heated. Words are said in anger. But make no mistake, I have always stood by my husband. Drafting papers was never about ending things. It was about protecting my peace. The statement sounded professional, polished, but fans saw right through it. To them, she wasn't speaking from the heart. She was speaking like an attorney, trying to clean up a mess. And once again, the internet dragged her. Protecting your peace or protecting your pride? Why you gotta sound like a press release when your husband crying online? The real twist came when suspicion began to swirl around who leaked the papers. The blogs claimed it wasn't random. Someone close to Kendra had slipped. Screenshots surfaced of a group chat where her own assistant bragged about keeping receipts. Another rumor suggested one of Jock's baby mamas had connections inside her office. Suddenly, the storyline wasn't just about trust between husband and wife. It was about betrayal from the inside. Who in Kendra's circle wanted to see her fall? Who would benefit from watching her marriage implode? The pressure mounted. Her career as a lawyer, once untouchable, now looked shaky. Clients whispered, colleagues side-eyed, judges she appeared before couldn't ignore the headlines. The woman who once bragged that she never let reality TV define her was now being defined by it more than anyone else. And Jock, feeding on the moment, doubled down. He posted a photo of himself in a sharp suit with the caption, "Not a respondent, a man, a husband, a father. Don't ever forget it." The post went viral. Fans praised him for reclaiming his dignity, even as critics reminded the world of his messy past. What made it worse for Kendra was the hypocrisy. She had always accused Jock of embarrassing her on social media, of airing out their business in public. Now she was the one under fire, the one whose private move had become public humiliation. And every time she tried to explain herself, she sounded less like a wife and more like a witness on the stand, cross-examining her own heart. The tension hit its peak when Jock dropped a bombshell in a late-night interview with a local Atlanta radio host. Calm, collected, and almost smug, he revealed, "The leak? I know exactly where it came from. Somebody real close to her. Somebody she trusts. But see, loyalty don't live where fear runs the show." He didn't name names. He didn't have to. The internet did it for him. Within hours, speculation exploded. Was it the assistant? Was it a paralegal? Was it a family friend? The mystery became the new obsession, fueling threads, YouTube breakdowns, and endless TikToks. By the time the sun rose, Kendra wasn't just fighting for her marriage, she was fighting for her image, her credibility, her entire identity. And, the most dangerous part, she still didn't know who the mole was. She didn't know who in her circle had turned against her. All she knew was that the papers she thought would give her power had stripped her of it completely. The cliffhanger came sharp and brutal. As bloggers teased another leak, a second set of documents even more damning than the first, fans braced themselves. If the first papers were a bluff, what was next? And could Kendra survive another hit? When the first leak exploded, it felt like a betrayal. When the second leak hit, it felt like war. Late one Friday night, as Atlanta's nightlife buzzed, bloggers began posting screenshots of another set of divorce papers, this time stamped, sealed, and carrying the weight of something much harder to dismiss. Fans zoomed in on every detail: official letterheads, case numbers, dates. Whether they were legitimate or carefully doctored didn't matter. To the internet, they were gospel. The hashtag #Kendra's Final Move trended before Kendra Robinson even saw them herself. She woke to her phone vibrating off the nightstand, a flood of texts from castmates, colleagues, and even family. Some messages were sympathetic, others accusatory. "Why didn't you tell me? Girl, are you really leaving him? You know this is everywhere, right?" The woman who once prided herself on being unshakable now sat paralyzed. Her power as a lawyer meant nothing in the court of public opinion. The streets didn't care about due process. They cared about drama, and right now Kendra was the headline. Young Jock didn't stay silent this time. He went live again, but this wasn't the pacing, frustrated man fans had seen before. This was a man who smelled blood in the water. Calm, deliberate, and dressed in black, he stared straight into the camera. I told y'all somebody close to her was setting her up. And now look, 2 leaks, 2? You don't just accidentally have divorce papers floating around like flyers. That ain't love. That ain't marriage. That's strategy. And I ain't nobody's case study. His words cut sharper than any scream could. He wasn't emotional anymore. He was controlled, collected, and dangerous. The fallout reached beyond Instagram. Castmates weighed in publicly. Scrappy joked on his story, "Man, this marriage got more leaks than my mixtape." Erica Mina, always ready with a sharp tongue, commented under a blog post, "You either in love or in law. Can't be both." Even Rashida reposted a cryptic quote, "A strong woman doesn't need threats to stand strong." Suddenly, it wasn't just Kendra versus Jock, it was the entire Love and Hip Hop family circling, watching, feeding the flames. And then came the family intervention. One of Jock's oldest sons went live, frustrated and emotional, calling out Kendra directly. "Every time y'all fight, she's screaming divorce. Every time something happened, she waving papers. That's not what family is supposed to be. You don't scare somebody into loving you." The internet erupted. For the first time, it wasn't Jock speaking for himself. It was his blood. Fans replayed the video on a loop, dissecting the heartbreak in his son's voice, the way he sounded less like a child defending his father and more like a man begging for peace in a house built on tension. Kendra, cornered, finally snapped. Cameras caught her storming into a reunion taping, her legal pad in hand, slamming documents on the table in front of the cast. "Y'all want to talk about leaks? Y'all want to play lawyer? Let's talk about receipts." Her voice shook, but not from fear, from fury. She accused Jock of orchestrating the leaks himself, of turning her bluff into a storyline to humiliate her. "If anyone benefits from me looking like the cold-hearted wife, it's you," she spat. The room went silent. Even producers leaned in. The accusation was heavy. If Jock really leaked the papers, it wasn't just betrayal. It was character assassination. But Jock didn't flinch. He leaned back, smirked, and delivered the dagger. Or maybe the truth just came out faster than you expected. His calmness made her rage look unhinged. Fans watching at home would later say this was the moment the tables turned completely. The lawyer looked unstable. The husband looked like the victim. The narrative shifted, and Kendra could feel it slipping from her hands. Meanwhile, whispers grew louder. Judges who had once respected her side-eyed her professionalism. Potential. Clients pulled back. Bloggers claimed her law firm was losing business over Love and Hip Hop drama. Whether it was true or not didn't matter. The perception was reality, and the perception was brutal. The woman who once wore her career, as armor now found it dented and cracking. The climax came when a third leak surfaced. Not papers this time, but an audio recording. A voice note of Kendra, venting to a friend, saying words she never thought the world would hear. "Sometimes I think I didn't marry Jocks. I married his image. I married the idea of fixing him. And now I'm the one who feels broken." The internet gasped. In 1 minute of raw honesty, everything unraveled. Fans who had defended her turned. Memes painted her as a puppet master who lost control of her own strings. By now, the damage was irreversible. Jock capitalized on the moment, posting a single caption that went viral instantly. "Love don't need contracts. Control does." Tens of thousands of likes, thousands of comments. The kind of line that cements itself as a cultural reference point. As the season drew to a close, production teased the biggest cliffhanger yet. A reunion stage set, lights blazing, Kendra seated across from Jock, her jaw tight, her hands gripping. The armrest, papers stacked in front of her. Jock relaxed, leaning back in his chair, arms folded, smirk on his face. The host asked the question that everyone had been waiting for. "So tell us, are these papers just a bluff? Or is this the final move?" The camera cut to black.